begins with a scene no one who watched the surveillance footage will ever forget. A young woman sits on the Charlotte light rail late at night, heading home after work. Just a few seats behind her is a man she doesn't know. He leans forward slightly, then rises from his seat, and in an instant that shocks everyone who sees it, he pulls out a pocket knife and stabs her repeatedly from behind. The woman collapses to the floor, fatally wounded, as horrified passengers scramble in fear. This was not an altercation, not a fight, not even an argument. It was sudden, unprovoked, and vicious, and the victim was 23-year-old Ireina Zerutska, a refugee who had fled the war in Ukraine, hoping to build a safer life in America. The attack happened on August 22, 2025, on a Charlotte light rail train in North Carolina. For the people on board, it was an ordinary evening commute until the violence shattered it. According to investigators, Ireina had just finished her shift at a pizza restaurant and boarded the train as she normally did. She sat down quietly, likely exhausted from a long day. Behind her was Carlos Brown Jr., a man with a long criminal history and severe mental health issues. Without speaking a word to her, Brown suddenly reached forward, and drove a knife into her multiple times. The brutal attack was captured on surveillance cameras inside the train, and that video quickly spread online. It showed not only the suddenness of the stabbing, but also how defenseless the young woman was. She never had a chance to react, to fight back, or even to turn around and see the man who was about to end her life. The footage fueled public outrage across Charlotte, and far beyond, police and paramedics rushed to the scene. But it was too late. Ireina died from her wounds before she could be saved. Officers arrested Brown almost immediately. He did not resist. In fact, according to reports, he seemed detached, almost unaware of the horror of what he had just done. What investigators found after his arrest only deepened the anger. Court records showed that Brown's criminal history stretched back over a decade. He had been arrested numerous times since at least 2011, including charges for robbery with a dangerous weapon. Again and again, he had been released back into the community. Despite his record and despite repeated signs of instability, people began asking, how was a man like this still free to walk the streets, let alone ride public transportation, without supervision? Adding to the controversy was Brown's mental health background. Family members and public records confirmed he suffered from schizophrenia and had struggled with homelessness. His own mother had spoken in the past about his illness and the difficulty of getting him proper treatment. But to many members of the public, that explanation was not enough. They saw a justice system that had failed to protect innocent people, and now a young woman who had already fled one war zone had been murdered in the very place she thought would offer her safety. The story of Ireina Zerutska struck a deep chord in Charlotte. She was described by those who knew her as a kind young woman with dreams of a better life. According to local reports, she had been living in Charlotte only a short time, working hard to support herself and trying to adjust to life in a new country. Her friends and co-workers remembered her as quiet, polite, and focused on her future. And now that future had been stolen in a random act of violence that could have happened to anyone on that train. The video of the attack went viral almost instantly. Millions watched in horror as the grainy surveillance clip replayed the moment over and over again. Some viewers were so disturbed they couldn't watch it more than once. Others shared it widely, saying people needed to see the reality of what had happened. In Charlotte, community members gathered for vigils, holding candles and demanding answers from city officials. The mayor of Charlotte called the killing unacceptable and pledged to review how violent repeat offenders like Brown were being managed. Public outrage focused on the justice system's handling of him. How many chances should one man receive before being removed from the public for good? When Brown appeared in court, the tension was heavy. Shackled and wearing a standard jumpsuit, he faced a judge who read out the charges: murder. According to reports, Brown said little, showing almost no reaction. For many watching, that lack of emotion was chilling. The judge emphasized the seriousness of the crime and denied bond. In one hearing, the prosecutor highlighted the sheer randomness of the attack, saying that Ireina did nothing to provoke this, nothing to invite this violence. The judge echoed that, calling it a senseless and brutal act against a defenseless victim. Those words would echo across the community, a reminder of how vulnerable anyone can be when systems fail. The case also reignited debate around mental health and public safety. Advocates argued that Brown's long history of schizophrenia should have led to better treatment and closer supervision, not repeated releases back into the community without safeguards. Others pushed back, saying the focus should be on accountability, not excuses, pointing out that mental illness did not absolve Brown of responsibility for taking a life. For the Zerutska family, none of those debates could undo the tragedy. They had already lost their home country to war, and now lost their daughter to random violence in what was supposed to be a safe haven. Friends described her as someone who loved animals and art, a young woman who once dreamed of becoming a veterinarian. Those dreams ended on a train in Charlotte in a matter of seconds. The surveillance video of Ireina's final moments has become both evidence in a courtroom and a haunting symbol of the cost of systemic failure. It is evidence of what one man did, but also of what society allowed to happen by not addressing warning signs that were visible for years. As the trial process unfolds, the city of Charlotte is left grappling with the aftermath. For many, this is not just the story of one man's crime. It is a story about accountability, about how justice systems balance public safety with rehabilitation, and about what happens when that balance collapses. The killing of Ireina Zerutska is now etched into the memory of Charlotte as one of its most shocking crimes. A refugee who survived the dangers of war could not survive the dangers of a public train ride in America. That painful irony has left the community shaken, and it raises a haunting question: if someone as innocent and unassuming as Ireina could be attacked so suddenly, how safe are any of us? The video ends as it began, with those few devastating seconds on the train. A man stands, a knife flashes, and a young life is gone. The randomness is what makes it so terrifying. The fact that it could have been anyone, and the fact that it never should have happened at all. And so we're left with the image burned into our minds. The still frame of a young woman on her way home. Her life cut short in an instant. She never saw coming. Ireina Zerutska came to America searching for safety, but instead found violence in the very place she thought she was secure. Her story forces us to ask questions that don't have easy answers. How many warnings have to be ignored before tragedy strikes? How many chances do we give someone before one chance too many destroys a life? In the end, this isn't just about one man or one courtroom. It's about all of us, about what we choose to fix, what we choose to overlook, and the human cost when the system fails. Ireina's name should never have been in the headlines, and yet it is. Her memory now lives on as both a warning and a reminder. Justice delayed or justice ignored always comes at a price.